over the last few years, we've seen a few, problem areas which NBFCs have been involved in. For instance, you've seen DHFL, you've seen ILFS, you've seen even, Shrey and others falling, and, there's been, and almost causing systemic risks to that because of that. Now, that, as in a sense, has also given the NBFC sector a kind of a question mark, a cloud around it. I mean, there are, of course, as I said earlier, there are the very well-known ones like yourselves, but then there are these question marks around the sector itself because of the developments of the last few years. Now, how do you see that, and what are the things the NBFCs need to then therefore be wary of so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past?
I've always believed for very long, while all the questions asked to NBFCs on the asset side, but the collapse or a failure of an NBFC always happens from a liability side. Either you've not managed your capital well, or you've not managed your liabilities well, or you've not had good governance and you collapsed or whatever. So whenever some things like this happen, for businesses which are extremely well governed and has managed its balance sheet very well, becomes even more important to the system. So let's first get that clear to say that yes, in industry you will have some collapses, some wrongdoing, somebody not doing it well, etc., etc.
But the size and scale, Ramesh, the size and scale of these collapses have been pretty significant.
So it does bring pressure on balance sheets like us. We are also large. Immediately there is a knee-jerk reaction that happens in the market. Sometimes liquidity can become a little more difficult to raise. All of that will begin to happen. I think those things should never scare a well-run NBFC. I think we should be fundamentally very clear as to what we are doing. Is it the right way of doing it? And have we been transparent in communicating what we are doing? I think what it reminds all of us over and over again is you will have difficult times. We have had one of our worst times in the first quarter of last year when the pandemic hit us. But will you wait for somebody to ask you a question, or will you reach out and say what has caused this? And what are those 3 actions you're taking by which you believe that things will change? And then are you able to demonstrate that what you said is actually happening? And if you do that, then you get all the benefits out there, right? Because some of the wrongdoings that we hear of and we read about, I don't think it's caused because of the business model, or it's caused because of you lent to a wrong customer or whatever. Right? I'm pretty sure people knew what they were doing was not right, maybe.
Governance, basically.
Right? So that's what I said. I mean, if you're running a financial institution, it doesn't matter whether you're a money lender or whether you're a bank. Any format of financial institution needs highest order of governance and highest order of transparency. Just a last comment that I would make. Every time there is a new regulation that gets announced, right? The question that gets asked is, is this regulation little too tight? Is it too much? And I've always felt and believed that yes, when the regulations do get announced, it's not very easy to implement them. But once you've done it well, you've taken it into your business model, your balance sheet only becomes more stronger. A quick example is we all started with NPA 365 days when I joined the industry. It became 180 days. We made noise. It became 90, we made noise. Today it is daily stamping. We made noise, but all of us have moved to that very smoothly. I think it's a question of when you look at the regulation, and we must all believe that the regulation is being done to strengthen your balance sheet. It's not to weaken your balance sheet and become systemically dangerous. When you're called you're systemically important, I think the regulator does note that there is little more room for more regulation to make the balance sheets more stronger. So I think these kind of issues that will happen with some industry, in the industry, some players, it will happen. But you should be strong enough and you should know why have you set up this business, what's the purpose, and stick to that purpose very clearly. I think you'll come out a winner.
So are you then suggesting that the common thread between them is governance issues?
I would think so, because as I started by saying, if you have a problem on the asset side, your balance sheet can shrink a little, your profits can go down a little, you could delay growth for some time, but you collapse if your liability is not well managed and if your governance is not in place. Whatever be the size of your balance sheet, you may be large, small, whatever number you want to take, you take. But if your governance is not good, at some stage you will collapse.
you.